Hello! So I had a friend who has asked me to take a look at their amp, which is their pride and joy from some years ago. It's not really worth anything, but it's crackling a little bit and I think it's going to be an easy fix. But first I will give you an overview of the Marshall MG100DFX. So it's basically the kind of entry level Marshall amps, but it's quite a big one because it's I guess 100 watts, which is where that 100 comes from. So it's a gigging amp slash a bedroom amp from the period where you had things this size in your bedroom. I'll probably not take the master volume beyond 1. That noise you can hear is the fan. I have a Marshall bass head and it does the same thing. I don't know whether that totally rules it out for recording, but it is certainly quite annoying. There's probably somewhere online you can find that lets you bypass it. Who knows? I'm playing a Guild S50, which I got for nothing because it's not really worth anything, some years ago, but it's basically an SG. It's got a single humbucker pickup. So you can hear the crackling there. So there we have the crackling and the buzzing. So that's the clean channel when it's not crackling. And if I'm honest, that's all I would ever use in an amp. Everything's going to come from the pedals because pedals are more fun to buy. It also has this FDD, which we googled, and it's like a valve emulator. Forget what it stands for. I will check and it will appear below. But with there's definitely a warmth. I don't know why you wouldn't press it if that's what it sounds like. Who knows, right? So we've got the clean channel. It definitely sounds like an amp. Big crackly gain knob, right? So if we take our master volume right down, so that's the clean channel. I think it sounds really nice. These amps were all about functionality, giving you as much as possible. More expensive amps are simpler with less bells and whistles, but it's good fun. So if we take the master volume down and put the gain right up, then although that's the clean channel, we're getting quite a lot of amp, quite a lot of that kind of valvey sound. Then we've got the crunch setting on the clean channel, which is quite a lot. For a long time I thought I was looking for distortion in the world, but I was actually looking for overdrive. And with the gain at about 2 and the master volume at about 2, you're already getting quite a lot of beef in that. So that's a lot, right? So let's turn up the gain and the master volume on the crunch. That's very face melting. Now, confusingly, that's not the heavy channel. The heavy channel's over here with the overdrive circuit. So this is essentially got 4 different channels, 4 different amp settings, which is probably 3 more than it needs. I've never really met anybody that doesn't have pedals and who doesn't have an overdrive pedal. So the chances are that your overdrive is coming from a pedal. Although I quite liked clean channel, lots of gain, then control everything with the master volume. I don't think I've ever played in a band that would use the overdrive channels on this amp. I don't know whether my tastes have moved on or whether the world has moved on, but I don't know many people that would. And any metal bands I know tend to use something outside of the overdrive channel on the amp. Volume in that as well, and then there's a second overdrive, so just a different circuit, so it goes even heavier. So, a lot of fun, but again, I don't know when I'd use it. I think the clean channel's fine, and then get some pedals. Now, on the DFX part of the MG100DFX is the digital effects. It's got onboard reverb, which is always handy. So you can sound like you're playing a stadium. Go back to the clean channel. Now, it's got these digital effects. It's got one of these knobs where the first swing is chorus and delay, then you've got delay, then you've got chorus, then you've got flange. So it's literally just a kind of volume knob for that effect, and then you have no real control over the parameters for the effect. Or the parameters are automated. So turn off the reverb and you hear the delay. See, I'm itching to change the speed of that delay, but you can't. So I don't know how much use that is, if I'm honest. A delay with a fixed speed. So that's the chorus. It's quite digital, quite tinny. By a 30% £20 chorus pedal I would suggest. Flange. I think that's somewhere between a phaser and a tremolo, right? Flange. Not really getting the jet plane thing then on. Then chorus and delay. I mean, it's a nice go-to. Just a bit weird when you don't have control over them. What is a great feature is the effects loop. Not enough amps in the world have effects loops. So basically, you can go in the back of the amp, like so, and you have an FX send and an FX return. And what you do is you wire your pedal board or a single pedal into this circuit, and then you have a wet and dry for that effect. Now, it's dependent on the effect. So what I have here, if you have effects that are just a bit too much, I'll put it on fully wet, right? So this is a ring mod, which is a bit unusual. Which I really like. I've used it in quite a few. It also has a compressor circuit, but we'll ignore that, right? So that you get this really weird, somewhere between a fuzz and an octave, is this little ring mod circuit that I built, but it's just a bit too much. So you can wire it in, and then you can use this knob here to decide how much of the pedal you use. I really like having that facility. What I've done there is I've got it absolutely up full whack with quite a heavy compressor on it, but I'm just using that so it sounds like a space age fuzz or something like that, and that's all because of that little knob and that effects loop. Right, so that's your review. It also has a CD in. I don't have a CD, so I've not done that. It's a full big jack. I don't know how you would do that. I guess that's coming out of mixing desk. It feels like it should be an aux cable or some phoros. And an emulated line out / headphones. I think that's great to have. They usually don't sound great. I should probably get headphones out for full disclosure. You just have to trust me that it works, because I'm not set up to do a a DI out. It's quite good, but it kills the speaker, so you can't really use it as a DI for recording, which is annoying. The only other thing is the foot switch. So the foot switch lets me decide whether I'm going to the clean or the overdrive channel. Still a little overdriven for me. I would prefer if it let me go to the crunch. So I just hate overdrive channels on Marshall amps. Certainly the cheap ones anyway. I'm sure the big fancy ones are. Do live sound, you'd see all these metal bands come in with Marshall amps, and they would all have these overdrive channels whacked up full, and they would kick them on at the big bit of the song, and I just felt they get quieter. I think that's quieter than it just shrinks the EQ so much. I've just never been a fan. So the other thing you can do is turn on and off the effects. I don't like the chorus isn't too bad. I suppose that's what the volume and the overdrive channel's for, so I apologise to the world of Marshall amps. All in all, I think it's quite a nice amp. It does the job, it's very versatile. I prefer to have a simple valve amp that does one thing and then you add in the rest with pedals because they're so much fun to buy. But yeah, so I'm going to open it up and take a look and clean the pots, because I guess that's all that's wrong with it. I don't plan to get a soldering iron out unless there's anything obvious. It all kind of works. It's a wee bit crackly, a wee bit dusty. So let's see. Okay, so here we have the Marshall MG100DFX, and we're going to take it apart so that we can clean the pots, basically have a wee look around, give it a wee service and clean it. So I don't really know what I'll find. Going in blind a wee bit, but let's have a look and see. So basically a combo is essentially a 19-inch rack, like the fancy schmancy studio ones, with an output that goes into a speaker. So you undo the speaker's not powered, the amp head is, and guitar goes in, noise comes out, comes through the speaker. Important note, valve amps are dangerous. This isn't a valve amp. Valve amps have got big voltages, so this, when it's unplugged, is pretty safe. Valve amps, when they're unplugged, can be dangerous. You can do damage, like deathy things. So, trusty IKEA drill. Basically, these are all the same. not the IKEA drills, the amps. And the amp head is secured to this. Now I can tell by the screws that I'm not the first person to do this. But maybe I will leave those washers there and just hope that they don't fall out. Right, top tip, put all your bits into something obvious. So, if we give this a wee pull from behind, the whole thing should come out. Ta-dang! So, here we go. The MG100DFX looks super complicated if you don't know what you're doing. I have a fancy degree in electronics and I still think it looks complicated. So basically all I'm doing is I'm going to try and give it a clean and have a look around and see if there's anything obvious that isn't working. But I tested it and there's nothing wrong with it other than crackly ports. So I'm just seeing if everything's plenty tight. There's nothing loose. No weird discoloration or bits that look like they've burnt out or anything. One obvious thing, if it wasn't working at all and you wanted to go as far as this, is you've got a fuse there, but I know it's working, so it's fine. So the pots is short for potentiometers, and these are these bits at the front, and basically they are made up of discs. So they decide how much disc there is for the electricity to pass through, which creates different resistance. This was more technical than I was planning it to be. Which creates different resistance, which means that the values are different, which means that the variable that you're turning on that knob will be different. Now the problem is that these wee discs get gunk and dust and general detritus between them. But luckily there is a method for fixing that, and that is in the form of a spray called contact cleaner. So I'm just going to give them all a wee scoosh of contact cleaner. So just so that it's obvious, these are the back ends of the pots, and they have a wee hole in the side for me to add cleaner to them. And that's how you fix a crackly pot. Now the rest of it, the power comes in here, it gets transformed from 240 volts into something more manageable. It says 10.2 and 30 there. So it then comes into the circuit board, and each of these, you've got an effects circuit and an amplifier circuit. You've got an amplifier circuit for the overdrive, yada yada. Then you've got your inputs and your outputs, and that's about it. This is fancy schmancy because it's electronics and you basically replace rather than fix, because it's essentially a computer chip. These little things and these big things are capacitors. The yellow ones are capacitors as well. Transformers. There's various things that are quite obvious when they go wrong. You would get a bulging capacitor for these ones, but there's nothing wrong with it, so I really don't want to mess with it too much. But you should be careful when you're opening them up, because you don't want to do more damage than you're fixing. But at the same time, they're also not that scary, and in this case it's not worth that much, so it's quite a good amp to play with, because in the grander scheme of things it's relatively simple. So contact cleaner. I don't know where I got this. I've had it for absolute ages. It's a bit like the antibac that we all used during COVID, in that it doesn't, it's not water, it kind of disappears. So it's not, you're not cleaning the stuff with water, which is quite important. Now I might need some sort of straw to get right into this, because the nozzle on my cleaner isn't good enough. So hopefully your electrical contact cleaner comes with some sort of funnel or straw that would let you get into that small space. If you ever have a child, you're constantly feeding them medicines and you get these wee tubes, so I'm going to use that and squirt it down there, and hopefully that will be enough to get it in where it's meant to go. I will destroy and bin this so that I don't feed my baby contact cleaner. So I'm just angling this so that it kind of falls into the potentiometer. Right, I can see that's going in. Then I'm just going to give it a wee wiggle around. That one was the worst one. So I'll do it twice. I'm basically going to do that for each of these. Now if this doesn't work, then the next stage will be to replace that pot, which is fairly easy to do. You just unsolder them from the circuit and then put a new part in. The new part won't cost much at all, but the annoying thing is taking that circuit board off the chassis, because you have to kind of undo everything, and there's more opportunity for breaking things. Now the front of it is missing some of these little gold things. I'll tell Mark how much they are to replace, and you can have fun. The good thing about this amp not really being worth anything is you don't worry about resale and all original parts. You can have fun and replace them with anything you want, really. Right, now we put it back together and make sure it works. So you're basically lining up these screws with the bolts that are built into the chassis. As a general rule, from being a drummer, I tend to put screws in a little bit and then tighten them with equal tension. It probably won't make a difference here. The back ones have got more access to light, so they're easier to line up. That's why I did that. Okay, let's power up. Now I'm fairly confident that I've not done any damage to the amp. So reconnect the speaker. But when I've taken things apart, what I quite often do is be relatively isolated when I power on the amp. There we go. That super annoying fan noise tells us that we're back in business. We'll lose the effects. So I don't know if you can... That was all crackly before. Now they're not crackly. I'll just quickly make sure everything works. There you go. Job's a good one.